Minglaba to all our revolutionary public. Today's topic is about the results of people movement of 1967, 1988, and 2021. August 67, no, August 1967, the 13th today was the date that Sidwe, Rakhine State, has rise crisis. In this particular crisis, many public were killed, and since then, there has been public movement based on the lesson of the history, based on the people experience. The people movement has been upgraded that reach today revolution. So at the same time, the military Honda are finding their exit strategies. So today's topic is really to talk about the past revolution and what would be the tactics that the military Honda would play around with the public. So for today, it is a particular day that back in 1967, Sidwe City encountered rice crisis. So for this, I would like to invite Go Nyan, to talk about this particular crisis. Thank you.
ဟုတ်အားလုံးမင်္ဂလာပါအခုတော့ဒီကျွန်တော်
Good
တို့
evening to all of you.
ASECC ဘက်ကစီစဉ်ခဲ့
So,
ဒီ August
to
23ရက်နေ့
participate in today's discussion organized by the ASECC to talk about that the rice crisis of Sitwe of 1967, as well as on the August that Detroit 8 uprising, democratic revolution. And today, in this webinar, I'll be sharing about the two events, and I have been invited to present information, the historical events that took place during that rice crisis of Sidri in the past. So thank you for inviting me to this talk show.
1969ခုနှစ်မှာဒီ August
In 1967, it was on August 13, actually, that it is a quite a coincident and historical event that it was back in the days in 1967, August 13, that nearly 200 people were killed as well. Even I would like to first start with what happened before the 30 August 1967. So that you understand better about the historical context. As you all know, Rakhine State, although back in the days, Rakhine State was known as the Nyawadi, which is a Sanskrit name, Sanskrit, it means the Nyawadi means rich in rice, and that rich in rice. So that's how the Rakhine State was known before. Rakhine State was known for its production of rice and paddy, and that and Rakhine was able to even provide rice and then sell to the different other states and region. But because of the mismanagement and the bad agricultural policies of the military regimes, that our Rakhine community ended up with the rice crisis, where there is not enough rice to feed the communities locally on the ground as well. The 1967 right crisis stemmed from 1966. In the 1966, during that cultivation season, there was a drought. And drought as well as on the bad weather system resulting in the damage and destruction of nearly 1.1 million acres of the paddy land, not only Rakhine State but also in Myanmar, and that it resulted in destruction of over 50 million tons of rice. At that time, that Rakhine, we did not actually, Rakhine did not run out of rice back in the days. But what happened was, although a lot of rice fields were destroyed, at that time it was under the BSPP, Burma Socialist Party, under the military dictator Nyein. So that at that time that they know that there is insufficient production of rice for the domestic consumption, but the dictator Nyein, yet in his greed for foreign currency, has ordered to export the rice as well. So in with the destruction of nearly 1.1 million acres of paddy fields and paddy production across the country, and that which led to about 500 about 50 million 50 million tons of rice that has been destroyed at the time. That that it is important statistic which will have a definite impact on the local consumption of rice, and rice being a stable nutrition for the people. But Nyein anyway decided to export the rice. The institute there was rice, but then the rice he said it will shall be reserved to be exported and sold in foreign countries because they are in desperate need of foreign currencies. If we look back, General Nyein came in, the military dictator Nyein, at the time he was known as General Nyein, came to power in 1962. And then when we look at the time that rice, at the time, about like 500 grain of rice costs only about 60 pounds in Myanmar plus. But in 67, the rice of many is like it's already that 7 jets to 8 jets from the 60 pounds to $7, 7 jets or 8 jets. That's nearly that in by 67. So you can see how drastic the inflation is as well. Before that, there is a drought and there is a food insecurity. There is a scarcity of rice. But it is happening across the country. But the rice crisis was worse in Rakhine State. So all the rice that is produced locally produced in the Rakhine State were taken by the military, and they put it in their larger shelters, and they put them as silos and reserved and earmarked for foreign export. So although the people are producing rice, they don't have access to rice. So which as the supply and demand goes, the price of the rice went up dramatically. People can no longer afford it as well. Then what happened in Rakhine State at that time was that so that Nyein has prohibited rice from being imported from other states, so that we cannot get rice that is being produced as well in the country, and that all the rice that has been produced have been earmarked for the foreign export. What the military started to do back then is they give rice quota people. Like they will say, like for example, a month for an adult, they will get 60 cans of rice per month. That is mean a person can only consume 1 can per one, right? But in that from that they also reduce it to 40 cans of rice per month as well, so that they have reduce the amount. So it's no longer enough to feed the people. It's no longer enough for a person to be able to survive on rice. And that although people have money, that people can afford it, they focus so much on exporting rice to spread abroad that there is a rice shortage in pretty much everywhere in country. In Sittwe, so people were getting angry because of the hungry. People have money, but they can no longer have it. There are people also, there are some people who will be, who are literally starving. So they were begging by the street that please feed us some leftovers, and people were desperate. And that, of course, I was not born yet, but my grandfathers and my that relatives who were alive that day shared their stories. So people could no longer live, and they were suffering. They had no rights. So there were a lot of expressions in the before that and that we in Myanmar in Rakhine language, Arakanese language, we had a proverbs like there is if there is paddy, there is life. If there is a nation, there shall be rice. And that also means that with these proverbs that we had the proverbs, we have sayings. Say that the point is that at the time, Rakhine and during the kingdom of the Rakhine kings, there always is food and there is always reserve for the people. People do not have to worry about it. If there is a major issue such as a natural disaster, then the kings will provide the rice that they have kept in reserve for the people, so the people will not have to be afraid about food insecurity, about the rice shortage. When the people went into a difficulty here, the people are not happy. People cannot live anymore, so people start to demand for rice to feed their families as well. So the movement started on the 11th of August. People start to gather, and then according to the so we had at the time, yes, we have an equivalent of a district level administrative council. They call it the Kalaka district administrative council. So people started to gather and ask for the rice, It was not a demonstration, but people are gathering together in front of local authorities to ask for rice so that they can provide their family. And people are not happy, and people started talking to each other. They talk with the district level administrator. How are you going to provide us with rice? How are you going to sell rice for us? How can we, feed each other so that it will be a so that and that so that there were some discussions, but of course no answers were achieved. And that on the 11th of the August started there, and then so along the 11th of August there was some talk with the local authorities, but no answer, no solutions was offered. So on the 12th, people say, okay, we would gather again. And then in Sitwe, the capital of Rakhine State, there was another public meeting with the administrator, and the meeting went on the whole day until 7 p.m. It's dark, people are angry. There was a large crowd waiting to be heard how they're going to resolve the rice scarcity. How will the government distribute rice so that everybody will have enough to eat? The answer still was not available. So in 1967, on the 13th August, people gathered again for the third day consecutively. The entire city of Sittwe was filled with people who were frustrated, who were that and then as people started to shout, they started to shout at their demands. The demands are very simple, and that they want the government to resolve the crisis that they are facing. Their demands were very genuine. It reflects the reality, and what they are asking for is resolve the same crisis. That we want to win the crisis against rice, and that so in the on the 12th there was a small demonstration, and the demonstration has some mottos as well. They said that we don't want Nyein government. These people started to chant that we don't want the BSPP party, Burma Socialist Party, resolve the rice crisis. And then he said that Rakhine's demand shall be successful. Rakhine revolution shall be successful. Rakhine crisis shall be successful. These are the demands that they made. And then from the 100 people, then it had become 200 people, 300, and that the numbers just increased up. An entire that population of Sittwe joining, and that there is a major street in Sittwe called the Merchant Street, and that and then there is on the Merchant Road of Sittwe in the main there is a rice mill named called Nyan. So in front of the Nyan rice mill, a lot of people came in. The military, of course, has been deployed, and they have put up barbed wire around the rice mill, and they said that they asked the order that the factory management not to open the doors. But people are in front of the factory of the mill, and they were asking for the doors to be open to provide food. So the military said that you cannot come inside the rice mill. That if we do, there will be problems. So that the military read an order, and the order says that they said they were gonna reach an order. So people were talking, people were hoping that, oh, the government is gonna, that concede, and said that the government said that the government and that the order was nothing about the right distribution, but they have the order is what that they have issued martial law in that area. So there will be another military administration starting from there. And the people were very unhappy, and that people were asked to leave the area, but then people there was a crowd so in front of, and then when people refused to leave, military started shooting at the protester. And there were a few people, there was a lot of people who were killed, and there were also wounded and injured, and that but people can no longer run because they were injured and the military killed them. After killing the people, after killing the demonstrators, no, not only the dead, but also the wounded, the military that round them up in a truck, and they were the wounded, the injured who were still alive, and the dead, they were all buried in a mass grave. Back in the days in the 1967, it's not like today with the communication. So there were, some people say that about 300 people were killed. Some people say that no, only about 200 were killed. There were also injured who were who were buried in the mass grave. So they will say that there could be more than 300 who were killed, but it was quite hard today. So that but the official statement of the Nyein government was 20 people were killed, but in reality, the numbers were much more higher than that, but we didn't have official records. So this is the background history about the right crisis in Sittwe, which fell on the 13th of August 1967. That was about 56 years ago, in 1967, and that is the crisis of it. That is that is a right crisis in Sittwe due to the scarcity and food insecurity, where where the dictator Nyein decided to export the rice instead of feeding the community. It was the oppression of the unilateral party system back in the days in Myanmar under the dictatorship, how the people had suffered, where the people were demanding for rice to be distributed, rice to be sold to the community, instead of providing rights or the finding given a solution, the military issue that martial law, and then kill the people. So it is a day that remains always unforgettable for the Rakhine community. So Rakhine community will never forget it. They have never forgotten it in the past. They will never forget it in the future. That it is in fact those who had ordered such massacre that we had the military commander back in the days, and now they also said that and that Tura Wu, who served as a chairman of the NLD party, he was the commander of the Western Command. So that he was known as for ordering this kill order to kill the demonstrators. So this is something the Rakhine community will never forget. So I just like to share the background story about the rice crisis and the uprising that occurred in Sittwe on the 13th of August in 1967. So that this is our ASSYC have published a book on that about commemorating the 13th August of the Rakhine community. Thank you to Sia Koteu for sharing. Today, we have learned about that rise uprising of the crisis of Sittwe of the 1967. I would like to now start today's talk show. Today's talk show that we'll be looking at the different uprisings. So, and that the topic of for the today discussion is what are the outcomes of the public uprising of 67, 1988, and 2021. I would like to first introduce you to our speakers. So the first speaker is Siamanenu Tessen is a member of the CC, and that organizer for the DPNS. And then we also have Kristen from the BACS and the CDM Captain D'Artagnan. They will be our three speakers. So my name is Nyein, and I'll be the moderator for today's talk show. I am from a research team called ASECC. It's a research team dedicated to researching into the movement about the sham election of the military. Also, see here, today's talk show is jointly organized by the People's Code team and the ASECC. And today we are organizing this as a webinar. So I would also like to request our participant to join in and also to ask questions. So we have the talk show will be mainly in Burmese language, but we also have simultaneous interpretation provided as well. So please prepare to ask questions in both English and Burmese, and you can use the Q&A fashion. So thank you, Kodeung, for sharing about the Rakhine Rice uprising of 1967. But we'll continue to discuss about the public uprisings. There has been a different uprising now since the first coup of 1962, until the most recent coup of Myanmar in 2021. Every time there had been public uprising, and that during the public uprising, it is also important to think about how do we organize and mobilize the people. So we have different people from different generations. We'll talk about different uprisings as well. Among our speakers, I would like to request our speakers to introduce themselves. First, I would like to invite Siama Nurutasen to introduce herself. Can you also share about your current work as well as on the work that you are doing with the DPNS? Thank you for inviting me. My name is Nunu Tassem. I'm so I am at the activist since 1988, and I'm always work as a political activist. And then I work for the political party. Right now, I'm the Democratic Party for New Society, DPNS. I'm also a member of the Central Organizing Committee. I'm also serving as a representative for my party in the NUCC, and in the NUCC, I'm in the part of the policy development drafting as well. In my party, I am in charge. I'm a treasurer in charge of the financial accounting standards, and then I'm also participated in the women union as well as a political as a political advisor. I'm also part of the union movement for women as well. Next, I would like to invite Captain Nyein, so a CDM soldier. Please introduce yourself. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Nyein. Thank you for inviting me. I have joined the CDM movement from the Medical Corps of the Tamado. My name is Nyein. I'm also a former member of the People's School. Right now that I'm in the today's talk show, I'll be participating, but I'll be participating as one of the speakers as well, ad hoc speakers as well. I'm also contributing to the revolution to the extent that I can. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Kristen. Christine, please go ahead, introduce yourself. Thank you. So I am from the Burma Affairs Conflict Studies. I'm serving as a director for BACS. My name is Kristen. I'm also participating in an important position in the revolution and related relevant activities. Thank you. Now that we have introduced our speakers, we'd like to start with today's thematic area. Today our talk show falls on the 13th of August, and the 13th of August, if we look back, there are also a lot of history. We had the Rakhine rice uprising or the rice movement in 1967, but there was also 1988 political uprising or the democratic uprising of Tetra 8 as well. So, but however, that Tetra 8 uprising is very well known across the country and across the world, but not many people knew about 1967 Rakhine State rice uprising, and we want people to know more about it. So on today, that on the 13th of August, we want to discuss that different popular uprisings with the political movement as well. In along the videos, I would like to first invite Siama Nunutasan with a question that in 1967, Godeu has explained about the Situate rice crisis or the rice public uprising. How much did you know about that uprising in Rakhine State? And that my two question is that in the 1967, the Rakhine, the Sidri uprising, and then we have the Tetra 8 political uprising. What are the similarities? What are the differences? Can you share?
Thank you very much. Based on what I understand, I will discuss about our past. I am one of the members of the generations of the Tetra 8 revolution. Rakhine got rise crisis back in 1967, but it was the crisis of a whole nation. So what we heard is that the farmers themselves all had to eat poor quality rice, even if they planted all the paddy rice fields and everything. And we also heard from our father generation that they had to eat porridge, and they did not have enough earnings so that they could not even have proper clothing and stuff. So it happened throughout the whole country. It was particularly bad. The situation was particularly bad in Rakhine. Why it happened? Well, it happened because of this Myanmar style socialism, the so-called Myanmar style socialism by the um, uh, by General Nyein. So with their bad regime, all the socio-economic aspect of the country was monopolized by the General Nyein's Burma Socialist Program Party. So as a result of this bad management, Myanmar um, that was once the top country in the ASEAN nation became the poorest country among this ASEAN nation. So it is very much based on their Burmese way to socialism. So they manipulate the country power, and they bully and exploited Myanmar people. So as a result of it, Sidway rice crisis happened. But naturally, Myanmar did not need to have this kind of crisis. Myanmar was very much natural resource rich country. But there has there was always been shortages in terms of the country avenue. So that's why they printed all the money bills. So as a result of it, inflation happened. So as a result of it, they try to make all these banknotes illegitimized as well. So as a result of it, the country end up being in the um, situations of the poorest country. So that was the case even up to 1988, 1987, starting from starting from the day that he staged the coup back in 1962. So throughout all this time, public movement happened. All the public movement, student participate, youth participate. So there is a natural phenomenon that if the public is oppressed, then the public will again revolt. So that's why by 1989, armed struggle happened, participated by student society. So basically, the situation that we face now is very much the same than that we had that back that time in 1988, 1989. Because the thing is that we have to protect our own by having the struggle, right? So I also would like to say that there were, back in 1988, there were many soldiers and police who stand together with the public. I mean, they, the police, the soldier, were dismissed for the fact that they respect the public will, the public wishes. So there were many statistics around that. So in order to wrap up what I was trying to say, Rakhine rice crisis happened, but then similar crises happen all across the country. So all of these were amounted up to total 8 people uprising. So it is a very simple phenomenon, right? The soldier were trained only to kill, only to intimidate, only to obey, only to shoot gun. So they were trained only for this. How they would be able to develop the country, how they would be able to utilize the natural resources, how they would be able to manage the better improvement of the country. They are not trained for that. So these soldiers taking the positions of the management, so as a result of it, that country became the poorest of all. So now we have this revolution, this um, spring revolution. Why the public have no tolerance whatsoever to be managed by such kind of soldier. So there are many forms of participation by the public in this revolution. So the people want to have not only the regime change, but also the changes in overall perspective of our social economic life. So there it's the public commitment that this is going to be the end game for the military dictatorship. So now the military use these tactics. The military is now oppressing the suburban area, the ethnic state area, and at the same time, the military regime have all sort of propaganda at the urban area, saying that the the military institution is protecting the country, and they are also oppressing the urban populations as well. So the thing is that the military did not do not want to have this federalism. If the federalism and democracy would be prevail in the country, they have no places whatsoever at all
ဖန်တီးပေးရမယ်
in the politics or for their economics. So now they are having this psychological warfare that federalism as if as a taboo. So they also play this divide and rule tactics. They have some sort of preferred treatment to some of the ethnic group, and they would also at the same time oppress some ethnic group as well. So that is how they do this divide and rule tactics. So in the economic perspective, there is no economic opportunity, but only the military monopolize the whole economy business sector. And if you want to do some business, you have to be under the control of the military. And if you bribe the military, and if you pay bribery, and if you commit all sort of corruption for the military, then you will have the business opportunities as well. So at the results of everything, the lowest population suffered from all the economic poverty and everything. So these are the enabling factor that would make public movement mobilized actually. Thank you. So different generations carried out the public movement all through the time. Um, Nonotasan mentioned about the grounds and, and facts in terms of why all the revolutions are carried out even up to today one. Now I would like to give the floor to Christine. Christine run the BACS. I also would like to ask you a particular question. There was the Doctoral Aid 35th anniversary commemoration ceremony back in last August, the 8th. So did you notice any any dynamic in terms of any particular activities that would commemorate for this revolution, and would people interested in it, and what are the other organizations participating in this particular moment as the commemorative ceremony? Thank you. August is a month in which we've got quite some commemorative event in our uh, generation before us. They had their democratic movements as well. Based on their movement, we carried on their unfinished movement. This year, Teatral Aid commemorative event, what I noticed is that there were campaign, there were event by many organizations, strike committees, publics as well. So it is very clear and obvious that people uh, people dynamic of this Doctoral Aid revolution is still very sustained, I would say. So there were umbrella campaign to commemorate Doctoral Aid revolution in Yangon. So this kind of creative umbrella campaign was led by the young generation very recently as well. So people have this commitment that this is going to be the final revolution to get rid of the military dictatorship. And now people are not calling for what they want. Now people are fighting for what they want. They are committed for that. They will have no return if they will not have the wish that they want. Zagain Strike Committee, Tanindai Strike Committee, Mandalay Strike Committee, Pianulian Strike Committee organized public mobilization and campaign to commemorate the Teatral Aid 35th anniversary commemoration. There were many slogans as well, and past year slogans were used this year as well. So one of the particular slogan is that the unfinished, unsettled debt of the Teatral Aid Revolution is to be settled this year. So this is quite a significant slogan that people are using um, this year as well. And I also noticed that the 88 generation then um, uh, 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 participated in the interview that they will carry on in this Spring Revolution for the unsettled um, causes of the Doctoral Aid revolution that they participated. And the acting president of the National Unity Government, Diwalashila, came up with the statement that we have to carry out the the Spring Revolution really to settle all the unfinished public movement. And importantly, the ethnic organization also came up with all their statements, and KNU new committee 100 days progress presentation was made very recently, in which they talked about that they do not accept the brutality and atrocity of the um, uh, State Administration Council, and they unanimously said that the whole country, together with them, together with the public, will pursue the federal democratic country. So now, I also would like to talk about the role of the public. It seems that public was not part of the um, event, but I really do believe that the core of this commemorative event is the role of the public. The public from all walk of lives participated in various forms with only one message, saying that the military junta and dictatorship is to be uprooted. The three they said that they will also um, get rid of this 2008 constitutions as well. So the three cuts is actually is the unanimous message by the public, by the student unions, by the revolutionary forces as well. And what I also noticed is that um, Myanmar people living all across other country organized their events as well. The GMSI organization um, conducted the organized event for this Detrol 8 revolution. So Myanmar in America participated in this kind of event, etc., etc. So what I'm trying to say is that yes, the commemorative events are important, but everyone it's participating and 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 engaging in all this public movement starting from 1960s revolution, 1980s revolution, and now the Spring Revolution. So throughout the series of revolutions, people, movement, dynamic has been increased and integrated. All our senior, in terms of our generation, all our student leaders, and all our revolution leaders are were very committed for their struggle, and they are committing with their struggle with the common goal. Of course, our approaches, our ways may be different, but we have the common goal, which is the federal democratic country in which everyone would be equal, and equality will be there, in which there will be no place for the military dictatorships. So everyone is participating in this struggle. And the most important thing is that among all such oppression, among all sort of atrocities, the people, the revolutionary organizations, the revolutionary forces never gave up, and they still keep their momentum ongoing. Thank you very much. And thank you. You talked about the series of revolution in the past, and you also talked about the significant dynamic that you observed in this Spring Revolution in linking with the past revolutions. Now, I would like to give the floor to Thar Nyan. It has been 35 years that it was the Detroit 8 people uprising, and even before that, there was the city rice crisis. So all these revolutions were distorted by the propaganda of the military. Now, I would like to ask D'Artagnan what kind of message that you would like to give to younger generation about the people movement in the history. And I also would like to ask you what is the significant observation of you in the Spring Revolution with the perspective of the CDM captain. Thank you.
D'Artagnan, can you hear us? You're still muted. D'Artagnan, please.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပါကျမတို့ရှစ်လေးလုံးလူထုလှုပ်ရှားမှုကနေပြီးတော့အခုကျမတို့နေဦးတော်လှန်ရေးကာလ
So from the 1988 democratic rising to the 2021 Spring Revolution, different generations have struggled for democracy, and different generations had handed over the struggle for democracy. And it's been 35 years since the 1988 or the Detroit democratic uprising. So after 35 years, and that so that the revolution and the struggle for democracy had escalated to resistance, and we are seeing fighting between the ASECC forces and the pro-democratic people of Myanmar. So people are struggling in the armed resistance as well as on the fight in the struggle for democracy. And we are hearing and we are seeing that people are fighting for democracy through the general strikes as well as on the CDM movement as well. So people are participating in different ways as well. That such public participation is incredible, and that it is also important to maintain that and streamline the public participation in this revolution. So through the public participation, then when we are trying to attack the military, when we have a public support, that really makes the military tremble. In that in the 2021 immediately after the coup, we are seeing millions of people decided to the street as well. Now that the revolution has transformed towards the armed resistance, we need even more public support. We need a clear vision. We need also the clear commitment and the support of the people, and that's what we are also trying to achieve in this revolution. Now, I would like to, since our speaker is having some technical issue, I would like to then go back to Siama Nunutasan. Siama, you have walked through the different areas in the struggle for democracy and equality. So, what do you think? What do you see as the key or the essence of the public uprisings along the history, and that that how can, although when we see like a major uprising as something sudden and that came out, but then now the case and the time also is shorter. Now that in the Spring Revolution, in the beginning, we have seen a lot of major support and from the people, but people seem to be getting usual with the revolution as the new normal. So how do we re-engage get the people more engaged and mobilized? So to why do we see this current movement as people are getting used to with the struggle with the new normal? So when we try to mobilize the people from across the country, with the mobilization, people participate a lot. People are mobilized across the country. Nowadays, we have seen too much of oppression from the military, so it is harder for the people. It is harder. It is for harder to do a public uprising, and that people have been pushed into armed resistance, resulting in many of the youth taking up weapons to fight back against the military. The will of the people is they want democracy. They want a peaceful, prosperous federal democracy union. So, of course, terminology is easy to say. When you say federal democratic union, it's quite easy to say, but the reality can be very difficult it is important to select and opt for the right to a public movement as well as on the right to federal system. And then for that to achieve that, you need to go through a lot of consultation and negotiation and then agree on a pathway, the way forward, and then we need to implement it, charge upon it as well. So this is something we have to do with the part of the nation building that we need to do while we are struggling for democracy and eradicate the military. So not all of us can be experts on everything. Among the youth, however, among the youth of today, they know that if you do this, that will happen. Sometimes it is important to be able to learn more, to have more knowledge, and also it is also important to be dutiful and mindful, and also to build the trust and relationship with the other communities or other coming from different backgrounds as well. And that's the essence of the public mobilization as well. That's what the military is afraid about. That's what will make them trouble. If there's a public support, there's a public mobilization, they are, but the military is always very concerned about it as well. For the military, the military is a firing, firing at the people, shooting at the protester, and they do it out of fear. They are afraid of the people, so they do it, and they feel this that they have this pang inside. They have this the guilty, and we that we have heard about the stories of the soldiers who have tell about who were in practically in tears and telling about the horrible views that they have seen right in front of them where people are being shot and killed, and those stories were told by the soldiers themselves. So I think it is also important that you know that in the remember in the beginning of the Spring Revolution at 8 p.m. every night, people were beating pots and pans to as a traditional to get rid of the evil that also have frustrated and that make the military scared too as well. So that it is important the public uprising can really the like CDM movement or the general strikes can really make the military work. In the CDM movement, we see not only the civil servants of the government agency, but also we're seeing from the police, from the military, as also from the fire brigade and others as well, that have, I think that the civil disobedience movement or refusal to obey the orders of the military is also a major challenge for them as well. And that's why they are targeting the CDMers, the families of the CDMers. That's why they are, they're designating them, the CDMers, as a terrorist, and they're trying to arrest them, or they cannot find that they will even arrest their family. But CDMers have made a very clear choice to stand for the truth, to stand for democracy. But it's not that they are not doing anything to do further. But for the military, they are in a great fear. They are in paranoia, so they would even target the CDMers as a terrorist or that as well, and they will even arrest their families. Don't have to, we don't have to go back to the situation of the 1988 and go back to the Detroit uprising. What we need to do in honor regarding the 1988 political uprising is we need to honor them. We need to make a commitment that we need to swear allegiance to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the 1988. And it is also important for us carry out the mandate that they had started as well, and that we can say that the blood of the people who the martyrs, the heroes that who have fallen, who were shot and killed by the military in 1988, their blood has stained our roads, and the roads are still white with blood. It is important enough to remember. It is important to commemorate the 1988 uprising and the former the previous uprising, and to remain to strengthen our commitment to fight against the military dictatorship. And it is also the same way we need to commemorate those who were killed in the 1967 rise uprising of Rakhine State, and then to protest as well. So I think it is that people do not forget about the 1967 uprising or the Detroit 8 democratic uprising. People know that people have deep inside the understanding that is different. Whenever we are at or we can say that of another war situation, what we need to do is make a decision to stand for the truth, to stand for the people, to still make the right decision. They know that if they work with it, that they have to think about long term rather than the short term as well. If they were to follow the military orders or work with the military, they would immediately feel they will immediately get some comfort, some luxury, make many safety, but it will not be in the long run. So it is important as well that it is important for us to show the military that we are independent. We can rely on our own 2 feet to reach the goal as well, and that at the same time, it is also said to say people have no one but military. People cannot rely on the military, but at the same time, it is a major support for us because people still support us. People still oppose the military as well. That it is important to combine both armed resistance and that disability movement or other civil movement together to build the future that we want. We need to have unity. We need to have solidarity. We also need to work, both underground and then above ground to engage with it. It is to reach a certain tipping point in this as well. It is important to plans to make, but also we have to be careful about the information security. We cannot leak information. We cannot share with and we cannot share publicly what we are doing, because if we share what will happen, the information security will be compromised and will threaten. So information security is important in our work for Spring Revolution as well. Thank you, Siama, for sharing in the points that you have raised. That you had said that now in the time of Spring Revolution, it is important that you also have mentioned how we can escalate the momentum of the Spring Revolution and how to also do mobilize the people as well. So thank you, and it's been valuable. Now I would like to give turn to Nyan, a CDM soldier. If we look back on the past democratic uprisings of Myanmar, they always have been that violent crackdown as well as on the propaganda by the military. If we look at the Tetra 8 uprising of 1988, or if you look at the rice crisis or rice public uprising of the situation of 1967, there have always been the military has used force to crack down that demonstrators because they consider them as a terrorist, and that the people are considered as terrorists by the military. They always run propaganda to say the people were causing the acts of terrorists. In the same way, like in the 67 or in the 88, now in the Spring Revolution 2022, that from the start, from the day where the peaceful demonstrator like Nathan Khan was shot and killed, the military on the day the protest, they say that the military said the soldiers shot only with a rubber bullet, and they were always they will always use fake news or the misinformation to disparage the voice of the people. So that's how the military always do. So how that when the people of Myanmar, they countered that with what really happened, that the ideology of the people, the ideology of the various generations are important to focus on that time. So the military try to to black out information, but they can't do it wholehearted. They can do that wholly against the people because there are also soldiers in their regiments and barrack as well. So although the military will not be able to black out the information, but how does the military get the information inaccessible to the soldiers and the rank and file in the regiments? Thank you. Thank you, sister, for asking the question. And please accept my apologies because of the internet stability in my area, and I lost my connection a while back as well. I will try to respond to your question. In 1988, and then it was under the regime of Dida Unewe, and the military. That Unewe even say that the military never shoots in the sky, but military was shoots and kill. And Myanmar also said similarly after the Spring Revolution as well. That military said that Myanmar said that our terminal, there is nothing we wouldn't do. So these I was formerly a young officer in the military. I also come from the military family as well. I have lived my entire life in the regiments, in the bases, on on the bases and the barracks. So as somebody, as a military brat, and that on that the democratic and the commemoration of the 88 Detroit 8 uprising, we have seen on the 8th of August, we have seen commemoration from different people, and that we also have seen the youth and that the senior older generations talk about the democratic uprising of the 1988. Today's we are on the 13th of August. The new August commemorates that 1967 67 that rise related uprising in Rakhine State, as has been shared earlier in today's talk show. In the same way, in the Detroit uprising, the military had also had committed acts of violence. That was before we joined the military, of course, but there are always been sort of like fake news or like kind of a shallow propaganda what we military has shared about these uprising in the history. So only one that and the that if when I was staying when I was serving in the military, and then we know by reading and by learning about the events from the different sources, I learned that this has happened, these such tragic stories have happened. As you have said before, history for the youth is something we need to understand the history so that we can draw informed conclusions about it as well. With the Spring Revolution as well, that when the military conducted the coup, and that sort of make you think about what the Nyein did, the first coup, and then what that BSPP, Burma Socialist Program Party, had done back in the days in governing the country. Once Myanmar that usurped the state power, they tried to build a certain strong position for the military, which led it is at the detriment of others. It also at the detriment of the future of the youth as well. Right now, youth in Myanmar are facing many forms of injustice, and they don't want to suffer from such injustice anymore. And that's why people are pushing hard in the armed resistance and the Spring Revolution. On the other hand, the military still is active around the world, and that they always have that this idea of the military is necessary and the military is a savior, and that's the propaganda they push, and that to not only to the people of Myanmar but also to the officers as well. While I was a junior officer, I have to attend what we call that military operation as well as and that mobilization training, where they give about the how to mobilize the people. They will talk about how important the military is, what are the issues or the dangers or risks related to the DOSU and what our work as well. They will also include like they also from the religious perspective that 1988 they will also just extract certain elements of the 1988 uprising to give us study as subjects as well, and that and they will also run tests after the training, and in the test we can only answer according to their lecture. We cannot adapt our views or our position on it. That always the military as an institution, and they would always they will always brainwash, and they will always push their propaganda to those the family members of the military that of the rank and file as well. That and they always will be make sure that that their guidance will stay as well. Now that with the times with now in the lately with the democratic government, populist government, it's harder for them to brainwash or to push certain ideas into the mind of the people. I think communities also suffer enter the military as well, and it's something that we start to see better and understand better as a population nowadays. Youth and that others age groups they are also celebrating that 1988 to commemorate the month of August to commemorate what has happened in the 88 uprisings as well. I think it is important to do that because on the 8th of August, 8th of August is a day that is honor for the fallen heroes and those who were killed during the demonstrations and the democratic uprisings. That in areas like Sakai, Magui, and Trinidad, where there is a lot of conflict associated with the military. Even areas like Yangon, Tanabe, we have seen events were organized to commemorate the 1988 democratic uprising. So that has been disparaged by the military in some of their the military medias, and they are also arresting people for participating as well. If we look back on that military still have a lot of fears against people getting together, commemorating the previous public uprising, and they also have strong hatred against. They will do whatever they can to oppress the people. They will do whatever they can to keep the people silent and oppressed as well. That's what they intend to do. That's how I can see it as well. So that this is something assessed like in the 1988 democratic uprising so that I think it is important. I've seen in the celebration it is important to commit to have the commitment like the 1981 spirit or 1981 mindset and the 2021 revolution. In this revolution, we have many revolutionary organizations and they are also working together to eradicate their military dictatorship, and that the military dictatorship is important for the democratization of Myanmar and building of the new federal democratic union as well. And that is something we also see similar statements and the position from the different democratic actors. We also see that their statements and their points that we raised also remind us of what happened in 1988 democratic uprising. But I think it is important for all of us to study what has happened in the past. And the communities have suffered under the oppression and the bullying of the military for the past 70 decades. And it is important to recognize that on the today, for example, like when we look at the 13 August, that Rakhine State rice crisis and uprising, such memories should help us to churches so we'll be able to work on that to be able to work on and contribute better in the movement and the revolution. Thank you, Kotatanya, for the points you have raised. So from the public movements, then we have that so that has led to the change in that there are possibilities for change, for ideological change among that members of the military as well as of their families and that others as well. This work I will go in the next round. So Shema Kristen, I would like to ask you the question. We talk about that we talk about the public uprising and that uprising, the movement for the uprising to take place, that the military always try to mislead the people and then to make it to distract the people as well. But in the past, if you will recall that consultations, for example, to distract people rather 1980 uprising as well. And then after 1988 1990 elections, and that they want to decrease the public's maturity understanding about the elections. So although the 1990 election was held successfully, they would not transfer power to the civic authorities, and then they used the time to draft a new constitution, which is in favor of the military as well. Right now, what is the military doing? What is the trend? Military always had an easy strategy. Military always have a place where they can run to and nobody can touch them as well. They will they will never leave this their position alive. For example, like Nyein, then like Nyein did. So Nyein, although he was a dictator for the past for many decades after the coup, but he was able to once he resigned from position, was able to live in quiet peace and luxury in Yangon. The same for their former dictator Danshui as well. He is living quite peacefully in Naypyidaw as well. Now we have the current military leader Myanmar. He will also be looking for an exit strategy, which will give in to be able to live in the lapse of luxury and in safety as well. So how do you see that? What kind of comments you want to make from that?
အခုဆိုရင်တော့8လပိုင်းနဲ့ရောက်ပြီပေါ့နော် August နှစ်နာတဝက်လောက်
It is the month of August. We reach more than half of a year. But looking back, the first half of 2023, we observed the movement of the State Administration Council, we observed the movement of the revolutionary forces. So as our organization, we observed all of these to come up with the uh, by annual report. And what we can say is that the military is very much in a chaotic situation, I would say. They are still trying to act as if that they are very strong. But and and they also deliberately leak a piece of information that the Thai foreign minister met with Aung San Suu Kyi, etc., etc. So this kind of Aung San Suu Kyi related information were leaked by the military council itself. Why? Well, we can have several reasons for that. Whenever the military is in the cornered position, they would use Aung San Suu Kyi for their exist. So that is very clear. And in terms of tactical perspective, they are such a coward institution, really, that they try to use Aung San Suu Kyi as their exit strategy. And on top of that, I mean, on the other hand, they have all their resources in their hands. They had intellectual resources, they had human resources, they had financial resources, everything. Um, uh, but they are not necessarily have all the moral and value based institution. They just have only information in their hand. So with the information in their hand, they are using all sort of misinformation, disinformation, distortions, and all of this. So basically what I'm trying to say is that although they have all sort of resources, in the first half of 2023 they did not managed to make any sort of meaningful political changes impact. They just used Aung San Suu Kyi, really, as a facade image. Only in July that uh, uh, they try to fake a kind of a sense that they want to make some changes, which is not true as well. And on the other hand, they try to have much more advanced relationship or with India, with China, and they also uh, um, try to be more progressive on collecting the biometric information. They collected biometric data of the government employee, and after that they try to collect the biometric data of the public members as well. Some of the public member, I would say, some of the student um, were part of their sampling exercise. They try to move along with that. Well, the thing is that all this technology, they had to rely on India. They also travel to Vietnam to observe their election practices, and they try to have a much more relationship with India for technical assistant, electronic capacity assistant. So what I'm trying to say is that in order for the SAC to overcome the political pressure, they try to use Aung San Suu Kyi. For our revolutionary forces, we must not um, ignore, or uh, we must not underestimate that as well. And they also use religion they have this marble Buddha statue, the highest one, that was opened very recently. So what happened is that they collected the forced donation from the crony business community in order to finish this marble Buddha image project. So basically, what we can learn is that they force such kind of donation to be contributed by the crony business community from the money that they collected from their donation. They will of course use them in the in this marble Buddha statue project, and as well as buying arms and everything. So another thing that I would like to say is that they will use Dawn San Suu Kyi as one of the tactics for their exit strategy, and they will also use some sort of distortion tactics for the public. What I'm trying to say is that they know that there are solidarity among revolutionary forces, NUG, ERO, strike committees, Myanmar community from all across the globe came up with the joint letter committing that everyone is um, it's in their pursuit of the endeavor of the federal democratic country. So the military knew it very well that there is solidarity among the revolutionary forces, and we also are not rely on single leader. We rely on our commonalities to move ourselves ahead of what we want. So, all the revolutionary forces were alerted with this kind of spirit, but at the same time, the military was very much alarmed that they would have to distort this kind of situation. So they are trying to dilute or distort the solidarity among ourselves. And another thing that I would like to say is that in July, the the assault or the incident has drastically increased. There were 200, 300 military assaults happened in the Gain area. Uh, but from the revolutionary armed struggle in the past, they shoot and they run. So they have this shoot and run tactics by the revolutionary forces. But it was not the case anymore. There were 200, I mean, out of 260 something military assault, uh, more than two-thirds of such incident was initiated by the revolutionary armed forces. So this is quite something. And for the military, what they can do only, well, it's the airstrike, where the airstrike is there, airstrikes are there, uh, in which only half of their airstrike incidents were the supplementary airstrike for their army waging war on the ground. But there are only over 30 incidents that the airstrike initiated the war. So these figures really tell us that the military is acting as if that they are strong as they were before. So they are not any more strong. And Min Online came up with all sort of public messages saying that there will be election in 2023 at the beginning of 2023, but lastly he mentioned that, well, the election might be possible only if the situation is stable. So he said yes, election will be there, and now he said that no, election will not be there in 2023. So he was saying double messages within a year as well. And now let us talk about their financial hardship. So they said that they uh, printed the new banknote, which which is 20,000 Myanmar charge banknote with the limited edition printing. But no one really understand. I mean, no one really trust it. So there are intelligence that there are billions worth of new banknotes that they have printed, that they are printing. So basically, according to our intelligence, we can sense that we could guess that they use millions of American dollar as an investment to print this so-called limited edition. If it is such a limited edition of this banknote for the commemorative purpose only, then why would they invest it that much more? Now, let me also talk about their um, the turnover of the higher rank of the military council. The Kachin state commander was arrested, and then some of the commanders were transferred to this place and that place, etc., etc. It happened, really. So by the end of July, the beginning of August, there were many high rank military officers transferred into the civilian um, ministry as a civil service. So all of these indicate us that they are facing such kind of chaotic situation into their institution. On the other hand, the public would really have to uh, be um, be cautious about our momentum, our dynamic, our solidarity, and we really have to progress our solidarity as well. The differences among ourselves has to be discussed and find the common solution as much as um, possible. So this is very important. This is a very critical time for us to be much more solid, to be much more concrete, to be much more unified, so that we would be able to prepare much strategic approach next year. So the time for us to prepare, it's now, actually, to have much more impactful year next year. Thank you. Thank you very much for your observation. And starting from the beginning of the coup d'etat, they tried to control the whole country, but on contrary, they end up having more and more places that they could not control anymore, and people are rigorously participated in this people movement. So as the outcomes, results, and fruits of the public movement, and people minds change. The military institution, family, soldiers, mind, some of them are changed as well. So why? There are many movements that make people minds change. So civil disobedience movement is one of a movement that I would like to discuss with Gota Tenyan. Gota Tenyan, can you please discuss about the mindset changing impact of the civil disobedience movement? Can you please discuss about it? Thank you.
Hello ကိုတာထက်မြန်မိုက်ပိတ်ထားရရှင်ဟုတ်
Gota Tenyan, I have the impression that your microphone is muted.
Hello မိုက်ပိတ်ထားရရှင်ကိုတာထက်မြန်
Well, Gota Tenyan, your microphone seems muted.
ပါတယ်ထင်ပါတယ်
Or it has to do with your connection. Well, I'm sorry, sister. I hope that you can hear me now. Yes, I can hear you now. Well, can you please repeat your question?
Hello.
2021လူထုလှုပ်ရှားမှုရဲ့အသီးပွင့်အနေနဲ့စစ်တပ်က
The 2021 Spring Revolution delivered the outcomes, the uncontrolled area by the military institutions. There are many more as the outcomes of this revolution. 2021 revolution. There are many results of as such throughout the whole history. So I would like to understand that there might be some mindset of soldiers and their family members changed due to this revolution and due to the past revolution. Can you please discuss about the mindset changing impact of the revolution, of the history, and of this one? Thank you. Thank you very much. General Nyein introduced this Burma Socialist Program Party, which is the authoritarian party, and public were oppressed. People could not live anymore under such kind of regime, so that's why 1988 people uprising happened. General Dan Shui also had all sort of oppressive regimes. As a result, 2007 Saffron Revolution happened. Again, the 2021 coup d'etat was staged. Public could not live this anymore, so people from all walks of life came out from their place to participate in this revolution. This revolution has been over 2.5 years, but people energy, people commitment, people motivation, it's still up to the highest of its level. We had civilian government before the coup d'etat. During that time, public liberties was there, physically and mentally. People was critical enough due to this progressive, open environment that the civilian government established. I realized that I was part of the military institution. I was told what I was to do. I could not question. So in my time of my military service, there are all sort of propaganda. There are all sort of lies. Nothing was true whenever they brainwashed us. But all these revolutions in the history and this one make us, the public, realize what it is all about. There are wishes, there are beliefs, there are values of the public and of the soldiers as well. So this 2021 coup d'etat made us realize that some of our value and some of our wishes were destroyed. So that's why we participated in the civil disobedience movement. The civil disobedience movement is such a progressive ideology for the soldiers, I would say, those who joined in this civil disobedience movement. Military institution is full of discrimination, racially speaking, religiously speaking. They intensify such kind of impact and action recently. So some of the soldiers realize that there are such kind of deliberate discrimination. Some of the family members of the soldier realize that there are this kind of deliberate discriminations there. And due to this revolution, due to the messages of the revolutionary forces, some of the soldiers and their family members are now much more critical to the treatment that they've got from the military institution. So these are overall the results, fruits, and outcomes of the revolutions of the histories and of this one. Thank you. We've discussed about the fruits of the revolution throughout the whole history and as well as this one. Now, I would like to give 2 minutes to each panelist to answer to this same question. Well, this revolution that we are in is very, very strong. The dynamic is unprecedented in terms of its momentum. So, what the leaders of the revolution should do? So, this is my question to everyone. No Tessan, please take the floor first. Christine will take the floor for the second place, and Nyan would be the last one to answer this question. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. What my recommendation is, it is important to think about the revolution, but it is also important to think about look at also the situation of the military as well, because what we want, if we want to eradicate the military dictatorship, and we also want to achieve the goal of building the Federal Democratic Union, and we need to find the balance in our struggle, in our fight for our revolution. So between these two balance, we have to fight and build a new nation, and we build and fight against a military dictator. So it is important to have a strategy for that as well. That it is also important to that so we cannot it is important to remind ourselves that we can never underestimate the enemy. It is important to keep be mindful about the enemy, and it is also important to keep our goals in sight as well. So thank you for that point. Next, I would like to give floor to Christine. 700% has rightly said so, and I totally agree with her that we cannot underestimate the enemy. And what I had said it in my response to the second question that Myanmar and the military dictator, and they would just use any event as a pretext and to be able to conduct the coup. If we look back what has happened in July, that whenever the military issue as something, or military start a rumor, and then it can, of course, it can be complicated, and people get distracted by it as well, like the rumors about us and all that as well. But since the 2021, the revolution, that they know that this is a scenario, one of the scenarios that all the democratic protective forces consider and discuss, and we know this could happen. And then and also when it comes to other forms of the movement, for example, like the election observation and monitoring, or the others about their policy, about the strategy drafting, they are important as well. Like when we are occupied by the destruction of the military, then we might lose our focus, attention on what we need to do. We might be dedicating our time to the others, as it's a time is a final resource. We need to have a clear strategy, clear tactic for what we're doing, and we also need to adapt it. We also need to make changes, but we have to keep learning. We have to keep learning to be able to do better. better and improve on our security, our strategy and tactics as well. But however, when we sometimes for those reasons we cannot say that it doesn't really stop that mechanism, but sometimes it can also lead to some confusion, and the people got confused over the way forward, and that's something we have to be careful about. Another thing is, as a youth, I will some of the that and that I'm not as a youth, I can be very very passionate, and then sometimes I will not be very discreet when it comes to speaking out as well. So some of my words might be too direct, too the language might be too directive, but then what we want to say is that I do understand. Say, I think it is important. What I want to say to the revolutionary leaders and the political those who are in the front line is that you have to think about the people. You have to look at the people face and do that, do the whatever you have to do. So this is the message I reiterate to the revolutionary actors. So what the students want to say, what the youth want to say is that think about the people first. People must come first. It is important to put your efforts in. We agree, do the different approaches, but the main focus should be the people. And we need to, we are driving the revolution with that, with the main focus is about the eradication of military tradition, about building the federal democracy union and so. And of course, there are many things we need to prepare for. There are many things we need to work on. There are also many issues and many conflicts we need to work on. However, we will need to think about the lives and the sacrifice that you have made, that the futures that you have sacrificed, the hundreds of thousands of the people, hundreds of thousands of the youth. And it is important for those political leaders need to be more honest, need to be held more accountable to that the sacrifices made by that. So we need them to be honest. We need them to hold accountable for the politically. We need them to be honest in terms of their commitment and their political mission as well. It is also important to listen clearly and hear the voice and the will of the aspirations of the people and the youth as well. So listening just not mean just about recognizing what we are saying as a verbal song, but really to understand them and that to take them on what people are saying as well. Because right now this is a live session, so some of the words I say is that some of the what we say, but some of the criticism which might make our enemies happy, but we know that sometimes because we don't want our enemies to be happy, and sometimes we have to keep silent, and that can be very challenging. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the enemy gets happy because of there is criticism, but it is important for us to be able to take action. It's also important to make certain decisive actions and keep yourself honest to the people, to the youth as well. There's also the issue of mistrust as well, that nowadays we are in a situation we need to have our back to each other. So when are we going to get the trust? When are we going to build trust? And so on. What we are seeing, what we are experiencing, what we are hearing among the youth is really depressing. It's really depressing, but we are not depressed. It doesn't matter how the situation is. We have sacrificed our lives. We have sacrificed our future, and it will not be for nothing. So all the revolutionary leaders and that all the revolutionary forces, all the democratic forces and individual, all of you are important. All of you must be honest politically. All of you must be honest and in terms of the revolution as well. As a youth, since the 1st of February 2021, I've never stopped a single day, and that for me, that I have always consistently participated in the revolution. As a revolution fighter, that is my request. Please be honest. Please be honest to the revolution, to the cause, and it is important to make important decisions in a timely manner, because the lives and the blood of the youth should not be for nothing. It should not be wasted at all. Good that, any concluding remarks? Please go ahead. It's been 2.5 years of revolution, and the revolution has prolonged, and the way I see it, as other sisters have shared. So Christine has quite shared extensively. What I'm also hearing is that there are also some noises among the revolutionary actors. I think it is important to build a good system where the different actors can work together. That is still missing. I would say that I'm a soldier, and I was a soldier. So as I was a former soldier, I think it is important for the NUG to engage with the different revolutionary organizations. We know that there are also some building along the story. I think it is about arming the local defense forces about the by consolidating their forces. There are also a lot of issues IG also is facing as well. It is so important for the territorial control, but that there are also we have that the fact that that armed resistance have been able to do the lay siege to the capital cities and urban areas. These are the areas where we will need to work on. That will be my recommendation. Thank you for the points. So I would like to say thank you to our three speakers. There are two questions in the chat box, and I would like to give the first question. What are the main lessons learned from 1967 and 1988, etc., such uprising that can be used in the current revolution now? And the question is why we will win this revolution compared to 1980. I would like to invite Nusiamanu to respond to this question. Thank you for the question. So when we look at the demands of the 2021 and why is the 2021 revolution has can achieve the goal, because it's been 2.5 years of revolution. We still see public incredible support for the revolution, not only people inside the country but also along the border and even the international community and the diaspora across the world. They're supporting this revolution because they are that they have seen that the atrocities of the military against the people, and that's the major support for us as well. When it comes to the struggle for democracy this time, the fight is different. We have different, whenever we form different platforms or whenever they form the structure, there are always problems as well. Political ideology also differ greatly among the democratic actors, despite the challenges, despite the different backgrounds. What we are seeing is that people are people remain very committed to keep on with this movement, and that is something we can see clearly in all the leaders as well as on the that is people as well. And we are also seeing that democratic forces are slowly gaining their influence over certain areas as well. So the military immediately after the coup attempted coup in 2021, that they were able to have administrative control, but now they have lost administrative control over quite a lot of territory. They no longer control the administratively. At the same time, they continue to exert pressure, they continue to exert suppression, and despite the pressure, despite the oppression, the people have rallied and stood up as well in the form of resistance as well as in the other forms of resistance as well. And in short, in my opinion, 2021 Spring Revolution and the struggle for democracy and the struggle for the eradication of military dictatorship can be considered as the ultimate battle that we can win. Of course, solidarity is needed. There are still gaps, and we need to consolidate more our efforts. And then by consolidating our efforts, we'll be able to get all the fruits and the benefits of this revolution. If we look back on 1962, 64, and that 74 movement, as well as the different movements along the different areas have given rise to this 2021 revolution. And then there are also the coordination and consolidation with the anti-revolution organizations is different from that of the 1988 Detroit uprising as well. That nowadays we have much more participation and involvement of the ethnic-revolution organization. So in the 88 we had that 2007 super revolution. We also had there has been efforts to bring to call for peace and to run to stop the civil wars, all that, but that hasn't never reached as a situation. The fact that we are standing together with a revolution organization of this extent is something that also gave us power to move on and to win this revolution as well. The weakness of the military is that during that the different democratic uprising, military had committed the genocide of the Rohingya community as well, and they also have committed atrocities in different ethnic areas. Now these are being accused against them, and they have to be held accountable, so that they are not going to be getting, they have military, the Tamaro have become a pariah, and that they will never get any kind of support from the from the international community as well. So we can say that we have 60% of certainty to win there as well. We need to get another 10%. For that we need a good strategy. We need to have a good way of solidarity and reach a common agreement, and that through the common agreement with the different political actors, we'll be able to do that, and that case will be successful. That we can see those steps for the victory very soon. And that's how I would like to answer. So 2021 revolution, that through the collaboration of international through the collaboration of different democratic actors and working together despite their political ideologies and differences, is the major force for winning this revolution. The second question is looking at the lesson learned from the main lessons from the 1967 democratic uprising and that of 88. What are the main lessons learned from the past democratic uprisings? To answer, I think, this question, that when we ask the speakers, that this also has been discussed by the speakers during their sharing, what they have shared during the talk show. So to answer this question, I would like to invite Siama Christie and Kutatanya, and I would like to start with Siama Christine. For me, this question, I mean, to talk about the main lessons from 67, 88, is a bit of it's a bit overwhelming for me, because these are the experiences I will learn from the books as well. So my analysis could be very weak and it has a lot of, can have a lot of shortcomings. This I would like to express my caveat first. And myself as a youth, and that as a youth I have participated in the politics, and it was only in 2020 or 2018, 2017, 2018 that I started getting involved in the politics. So my political analysis can be very difficult. So please bear with me. But what one can say is that what I do say that why is 2021 revolution has higher advantages than the others. In a revolution can take years. That when the revolution take years, when the revolution is prolonged, the situation can be that for the people, or that for us, is that whether we're able to keep the revolution sustained is something incredible for not only for the people, for the democratic forces as well. It's been 2.5 years, nearly 3 years. There's still the support of the people, the contribution and participation of the revolutionary actors, and the democratic actors have never lose their momentum, and that's incredible indeed. That the longer the revolution is, the support of the people also is incredible as well, and that so it is also important for us to keep forward in a very clear, distinct manner as well. The armed system that we are in is what we call that defensive war. In the honeymoon period, of the military coup, there has been millions of the people. We have seen the sea of the people in the major streets, and that from that that was such a public movement. Now that the administration, so that from the defensive, it has changed from the public demonstration to the defensive war, and that with that, we're in the past 2 years, we've seen the military was not able to maintain the administrative control over the majority of the areas as well. And the fact that back in the days, back in the days, back in those 67, 88, military was able to establish control administration in a relatively short time. So in this 2021, with this resilience of the people and the commitment of the people also played an important role as well, that people were able to withstand the pressure as well, that also pushes further when it comes to the revolution. So that if we look at the slogans in the past, that this revolution revolution shall be the ultimate revolution that will be the decision maker. The people will never, that if we cannot get rid of the military dictatorship, then we will fall under the regime once again and will never ever be able to reach democracy. And that's a consideration that democratic actors hold. Not only the democratic actors, but also the people of Myanmar are of the same opinion, and that also is will drive us to achieve our goal in this revolution. Last point I would like to make is about telecommunication. That nowadays, with the telecommunication, there is of course both pros and cons. In 2021 revolution, with the advancement of the information technology, Myanmar and the military, that shall we call that the military, that often they often shouldn't identify because what they should think about is that my god, we are in trouble, and we have done and we have started something we cannot win, and that's what they will be, that's what will be haunting them in their dreams every night, every time they fall asleep. That's what they'll be thinking in their mind, that we cannot win this war, we cannot win against the population. Because nowadays the generation Z, the youth of the Myanmar, we have read about what happened in 67. We have read about what happened in the aftermath of 1988 when we started the revolution. And there are people have rallied, have come down into the street without anyone urging them to move, without anyone mobilize them. Then the people have turned to, it's not possible, we need to defend ourselves. And people started looking for the ways as well. Because we were, if when you compare to the youth, which were sort of like a console with not real democracy, that under the military, I would say that Myanmar made a big mistake, a freaking mistake, if you were pardon my French, that attempted the coup this time, because they anticipated the youth. And but most of the revolutionary leaders and the youth leaders, we are working together in a balanced manner. We are building the harmony. So if you look at it from the economic perspective, the banks have always in the past the banks were able to, the banks were able to run the financial operations, and were able to raise funds from the diaspora across the world. Spring banks were done. Of course, there are also shortcomings, there are also hiccups and issues, and that's part of the revolution, and it's to be understandable. But what we are able to do that as well. That we started from the handmade hunted rifles to now the drones, and that we have step up in terms of the innovation and the technology when it comes to military weaponry as well. And that's the essence of the revolution of this century as well. And that the last point, the most important, is information exchange. And that when it comes to, we're able to share the information, that we're also able to do that a lot as well. We're able to share the atrocities, the human rights violations, and how the military is targeting the community. That has been shared not only with the people of Myanmar, but also with the world. That the fact that the revolutionary forces were able to share that communication, build the information strategy. That these are the pros of this revolution. And by using these advantages, that this revolution must and absolutely must win. And that's the commitment, that's the belief of every revolutionary fighter. And that's also what is charging us ahead. That also is strengthening us. Sorry, I'm taking too long to answer this question, but thank you for the question. Thank you. That is a really good answer. So I would like to, there is also a person who has raised his hand. So I would like to listen to the question. Well, first we'll listen to the question from the hand raise, and then I will allocate the question to one of the speakers. Please go ahead. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear your voice. Thank you very much. Christine mentioned that, to be honest, in this revolution, I understand what you try to say. We have to speak very carefully so that it will not be, whatever we said would not be used by the military. I have a question to all of you. Sometimes things we said might not be heard. Then in that case, what would be the other alternative to make sure that our voices are heard? Thank you. Well, thank you very much for the question. So this is going to be the last question. Well, this question is about whenever we ask something, but then again, if what we ask is not heard, what would be the other way around to deal with this? I would like to give all three of you to answer this question. Kota Tanyan, would you want to take the floor first? Kota Tanyan, are you with us?
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ဗျဟိုဟာ
Yes, yes, I'm here.
ကျွန်တော်ဒီမိကုန်းနဲ့ပတ်သက်လို့ကျွန်တော်ဖြေရမှာ
Well,
ထပ်ရှိတယ်
in order to respond this question,
လက်ပြီးလို့ရအောင်
I might be
လက်ပြီးပါခင်ဗျ
I might take quite some time, so I would like to give the floor to other panelists, if you don't mind. So then, in that case, Nono Tassan, would you want to take this the floor to answer this particular question? I would like to say that we have to recommend to everyone. So we should not call for something. We should recommend something. We have emotion, and we have our ears, we have our hearts, we have our mind. So we should make sure that whenever we recommend something, we need to make sure that it reaches to the mind of the people. So in order to make a short answer, we should struggle for what we want. You have to fight for what you want with the like-minded people like yourselves. If you are not sure about what you are doing, your struggle or your movement would be dragged back. So we just have to move along, we just have to move up. So in order to do that, you just have to fight for it. You just have to do it on your own, rather than calling your point to this and to that. Well, I would like to say this. This is going to be the last my question actually. Now let me wrap up. Thank you very much to all of you participating in this very topic about the results of the revolutions in the history and in this current revolution. Thank you very much for all of your contribution. We have the People Goals member, and we have the member from the thought process program. We have the member from the SPARC, and we have the member from ASECC. Thank you very much to all of you for organizing this. And thank you very much for audience, public member, for your participation. Thank you very much, and goodbye for now.
ကိုဝင်ဆောင်များတဲ့ကလေးငယ်များအမှန်တရားနဲ့ယုံကြည်ရာတစ်ခုတွင်ပြည်သူတွေရဲ့အသက်အသွေးများစွာမြေခါရာဒါကိုလက်ပိုက်ချင်းမနေနဲ့တော့အမှန်ကိုချစ်တဲ့ရင်ဒီဟာလူလူချင်းစာနာတတ်တဲ့စိတ်ထားရှိ